Dan Bilzerian, better known as the King of Instagram, is a professional poker player who has formed a cult-like following of his lavish lifestyle and high-stake poker playing. However, there is much more to his story than the epitome of luxurious living and pompous attitude. He is described by controversies that only grew more frequent as he rose through the poker ranks. As his popularity level elevated, so did the critics and scandals related to him. Skepticism and controversy in the form of accusations of misogyny, reckless driving, and criminal behavior tarnished his image. In the case of Bilzerian, his callous attitude together with his disregard for the norms of society means that he is both admired and despised with equal passion. In today's chapter, we'll look at Dan Bilzerian's opulent lifestyle and how he became embroiled in countless controversies. Dan Bilzerian was born on December 7, 1980 in Tampa, Florida. The family background of this man was characterized by as much luxurious lifestyle as family scandals. Born to Paul Bilzerian, a corporate takeover specialist, it is said that the young Dan had always been in the vicinity of money and controversy. Growing up, Dan's father, Paul Bilzerian, was a Wall Street corporate raider and a proud graduate of Harvard University. Dan and his older brother Adam received healthy trust funds from their father. They were now ready for more action. Dan and his brothers were of half Armenian origin from their father's origin. This aspect became important in Bilzerian's later life in politics. Their crucial juncture arose in 1989 when Dan Bilzerian's father, Paul, was imprisoned for securities and tax law violations. This significantly affected the family. This constant legal battle made the Bilzerians downsize, and this broke the facade of normalcy that Dan had been accustomed to.
All these kids are making fun of you and your dad's going to jail. It's like I was kind of traumatizing moment.
Their father, who before then was working for a robotics company, was being sued for $1.5 million for fraud. In Laziofsky's dissertation on identity, he notes that family lawful stumble can make children feel insecure and angry because they have no strength to impact the events and lose prestige. In this regard, Dan's early years of exposure to scandal and loss of prestige most likely triggered his later preoccupation with menacing amounts of money, stardom, and the tomboyish male persona. The impact of his father's legal cases is visible in Bilzerian's perspectives and interests that defined his life goal: to regain the status his family lost. Bilzerian later sought formal education in the mid-90s, joining the University of Florida where he studied business and criminology. Nevertheless, his educational endeavors did not get much attention, and it is still yet to be uncovered whether he graduated or not. He and his brother gradually transformed into poker games, one aspect that he believed could make them wealthy, and an avenue to channel his aggressive nature and love for high risks. It is evident who between the two brothers was particularly superior in the game of poker, as even Adam Bilzerian is a living testament to his brother's prowess. In this light, poker to Dan Bilzerian was more than a game of chance, it was a power struggle and control. Dan got himself into drugs and substances at an early age, which could be the reason for his 3 heart attacks before the age of 40. In the year 2000, Bilzerian made the unconventional decision to leave college, deciding to play poker professionally. The aggressive and ballistic approach Bilzerian exerted in playing poker with the subsequent intentional construction of an unrefined ladies' man image demonstrates signs of those complexes. It should nonetheless be noted that the hugely influential socialite's early internet poker career was not without its troubles. Dan is well known for his participation in the World Series of Poker in the year 2008, where he faced prominent professionals in the likes of Phil Ivey. Although it was one of his miniature winnings, Dan finished 108th place and won $36,000. It was a great effort from the entrepreneur. Dan also claimed to have had a $200 million net worth, of which $50 million was from his poker earnings. The unvarnished truth about Dan Bilzerian is that his persona as an independent tycoon poker mastermind is a farce. One poker analyst captured it perfectly for GQ magazine in 2017. It is evident that Bilzerian plays poker like he does life, with aggression, huge bluffs, and lots of showboating as he tries to intimidate the poker table as he does on social media. The viral interview of Bilzerian with GQ magazine yielded criticism from an ex-poker rival who accused him of hypocrisy as he used his father's connections to build his poker bankroll. The truth is, there are rumors surrounding Bilzerian that suggest he lies about his past. the opponent said of poker millionaire Dan Bilzerian. There are questions surrounding this punk and his trust funds and his fellow gamblers who fund his game. These rumors of trust funds and undisclosed backers undermine the rags to riches poker success of Bilzerian. With increased popularity came other vices of which Bilzerian was allegedly a part of. Among the most toxic incidents was his behavior during an accident with adult movie star Janice Griffith, with whom Bilzerian was involved in a legal dispute back in 2014. Griffith appeared in a photo shoot with Bilzerian for Hustler magazine in April 2014, during which Bilzerian infamously threw her off the roof of a house and into a pool. Griffith fell short of the pool, hitting the edge and breaking her foot. The 18-year-old sought $85,000 from Bilzerian for her injuries, but her request was denied. Later that year, she sued both Hustler and Bilzerian. Bilzerian's attorney argued that Griffith was under contract for the event by Hustler, that Hustler engaged Bilzerian for the event, and that Bilzerian was not to blame. Bilzerian, in his response to the incident, was arrogant and did not bother to offer a sincere apology to further his ego and image. The controversial character, however, retaliated by going to social media, laughing at Griffith's threats of legal action coming after Griffith threatened him with legal action. Bilzerian went on a social media rampage, lightly dismissive of her injuries. In response to Griffith's sobbing, he simply ignored her and said, "Cry more," further cementing the perception of his misogynistic and completely reckless behavior. Bilzerian was barred from a Miami nightclub in August 2014 after kicking model Vanessa Castano in the face during an altercation. Bilzerian claimed that Castano and other women attacked his partner. Castano said, "There were two girls fighting next to me at the table. People started being shoved and I tried to separate them. Dan then pushed me off the banquette, and when I fell, he kicked my face." Castano then sued Bilzerian for her injuries. It also emerged that Castano has requested Bilzerian for $1 million to settle the complaint, citing the risk of additional punitive damages based on his salary if the case went to trial. Moreover, there are controversies about how Bilzerian treats women and his business relations. The related organization is Ignite, which, despite being founded by Katie Dill, has experienced some troubles, most of which were concerning the founder. Dan was criticized for embezzlement and fraud in the 2020 lawsuit, where he reportedly used company money to pay for yachts and aircraft, as well as for the salary of his barber. The company had allegedly spent more than $60 million to fund Bilzerian's extravagant lifestyle and was on the verge of bankruptcy. Alongside the scant information to do with Ignite and the exposure of the company as an utterly fraudulent enterprise, there were concerns as to who had briefed Bilzerian and whether he had done his research. There emerged controversy regarding the poker feel and temperament of the man who possesses the audacity to lose $15 million in one poker one night. Some poker enthusiasts and analysts, however, think Bilzerian paints an image of a man who is purely reckless with no social representativeness, no care for corporate governance, nor investor faith. It would not end there for Dan, as in the latter months of 2014, he was arrested at Los Angeles International Airport on unrelated bomb-making charges. According to the Los Angeles Police Department, Bilzerian was apprehended on a fugitive warrant from Nevada and was booked at the LAPD's Pacific Division around 10 p.m. Bilzerian has been charged with violating a law making it a crime to possess an explosive or incendiary device with the intent to manufacture it. He was released from LAPD custody on the day of his arrest after charges were dropped, but was scheduled to be arraigned in January 2015 in Clark County, Nevada. In February 2015, Bilzerian pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of negligently failing to extinguish a fire in the open and was fined $17,000. In 2014, Bilzerian sued the producers of the film Lone Survivor. His lawsuit stated that he had invested $1 million in the film in exchange for at least 8 minutes of screen time and 80 words of dialogue, but his role was later reduced to less than 1 minute and just one line. His lawsuit demanded $1.2 million, the original investment plus 20%. The lawsuit was later dropped, and Bilzerian reportedly generated $1.5 million in revenue due to the film's commercial success. Bilzerian ascertains that he has been on the receiving end of the law for some of his thrill-seeking stunts. In 2014, his popularity plummeted as poker enthusiasts took to Twitter to call out the American international for hypocrisy and apparent lack of respect for women. But there were nevertheless other professional implications of his aggression too. Many sponsors dropped Bilzerian as he received criticism from the other poker players. For example, a poker commentator said, "For a game that relies on betting on people or the acceptance of outcomes, one has to ask whether the behavior of Dan Bilzerian at the table stays at the table." Dan, however, showed up at events and functions flooded with women half naked to further cement his image as a ladies' man. In an interview, Dan said that many of them were genuinely happy to be traveling with him and were having fun. The pompous character later announced on social he would be running for the 2016 general elections. This over-pessimistic effort later turned into a campaign for Donald Trump, who later went on to win the presidency seat. You could argue that Trump's influence on Dan boosted his popularity amongst fans. They genuinely loved Bilzerian and had even been voted as the funniest poker player in 2010. Later in 2020, the Security and Exchange Commission charged Bilzerian and other individuals with securities fraud in the pump-and-dump scheme of penny stock. According to remarks from Hill, a business analyst, financial fraud, especially the one that targets inexperienced and trusting IPO investors, poses a great danger to both market efficiency and public confidence in the capital markets. The charges that have been leveled further also endangered Bilzerian's existing and further accomplished, unmerited, and sustained vicious commercial celebrity status. The case also raised questions about how a man like Bilzerian came by his wealth. Many people in the poker world have doubted this narrative of making a lot of money in poker, even though he has defended this kind of income. In a Poker Pro interview conducted by GQ magazine in 2017, a journalist said, "The problem, of course, is that the hype is not supported by the game." These doubts, coupled with the charges laid by the Security Exchange Commission, show how complex and rather veiled Bilzerian's financial operations are. Dan did not get any slack as rumors went around about his deteriorating financial flex and countless debt struggles. Whether or not these rumors are true, it would surprise many for a man who owns a house dubbed the most expensive house to have financial troubles. In a sad and cautionary moral of today's fame culture based on social media, where macho tropes, the greediest pursuit of money, and an absence of accountability coalesce, Dan Bilzerian is considered to be an emblematic figure. From his insatiable love for guns early in life to the recent scandals on sexism, his reckless lifestyle, and embezzlement charges, Bilzerian's life paints the narrative of a social media influencer ready to embrace the next vice. Thanks for watching, and as always, let us know who you want us to cover in our next installment of Poker Stars and Their Controversies. Until next time!